What's going on, guys? JSGC here, back again for another daily Manchester City transfer update. Before I do crack on with this video, make sure, like always, if you are enjoying the content, then do subscribe. I'm going to keep you guys up to date every single day here on YouTube with all the latest City transfer news, so do subscribe. It is free. Also, don't forget social media links there in the description if you want to go and follow me on my X, Instagram and TikTok. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships for any videos or any general business inquiries. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up on today's update. We're aiming for 400 likes once more, and do get your thoughts as well in the comments below. So we've got no contract news to speak about today, so we're going to dive straight on in with the outs, and we've got the very latest on Issa Kabore, who, yes, is still a Manchester City player. At least for now. Now, Ben Jacobs says that Issa Kabore is set to leave Manchester City this summer on a permanent basis. He's expected to be sold for less than £10 million, which over the last summer or two when we've been speaking about Issa Kabore, Manchester City could have generated probably well over £10 million, but they've let his contract run down. They've continued to go down this loan route without sorting out anything permanent for him. And when you're working a player's contract down, the value is going to decrease, and that's ultimately what's happened here with Issa Kabore. I personally feel like it's a shame that we've never seen him around the City first team squad too much, to be given his opportunity, at least in training and around pre-season and going on tours and things, and just seeing what he can do, basically, because I just feel like he's never really been given the opportunity at City, and I think that's a great shame, and I think there's a really good player there somewhere, and I was really excited when we did get to see little bits of Issa Kabore at Manchester City about just what he could do, and then ultimately it's just never really worked out, and he's been one of them players that's been a Manchester City player whilst not really ever been seen around Manchester City, and ultimately I felt like maybe City have held on a bit too long here, and if they wanted to go down the profit route and making money route, that probably should have been sold 12 months ago or 24 months ago, but here we are. But Ben Jacobs says that he is expected to leave City, and it's expected that Valencia, Rennes and Galatasaray are the teams that are interested in bringing him in. And I do have to make a point that Galatasaray seems to be getting linked with every single player at Manchester City right now, so I'm wondering if maybe it's easier for me to go through the players that Galatasaray are not interested in signing from Manchester City, because literally every player that gets linked with the exit door, Galatasaray's name is there. Anyway, moving on, we've got the very latest on Vitor Reis. This is really interesting. Andre Hernan, who's been very reliable when we were speaking about Vitor Reis back in the January transfer window, has said that he doesn't know anything about Vitor Reis leaving Manchester City on loan. He says that Girona, as far as his understanding is, aren't going to be loaning Vitor Reis from Manchester City, and he says the plan right now is for Vitor Reis to stay at Manchester City. He's going to report back to first team training next week, and he wants to stay around the City first team squad. So he says that he doesn't know too much about these rumours of Girona wanting to make a move for Vitor Reis. We'll wait and see if there is something maybe being put into the pipeline, but if Vitor Reis isn't going to leave Manchester City, then City do need to start working on some other players potentially leaving, because Man City still got two non-homegrown players who cannot be registered for the Champions League, so we need at least a couple of first team players to leave, so we'll see what does happen with regards to that, but interesting that Vitor Reis may stay at Manchester City. Anyway, moving on, we've got the very latest on Ederson, and the Manchester Evening News is saying that despite some heavy links coming in with linking Ederson with a move to Galatasaray, Manchester City are yet to receive any formal offer for Ederson, despite these rumours coming in from Turkey at the end of last week, saying that a £2.6 million bid or a €3 million bid had gone in. Apparently Ederson has already agreed to personal terms with Galatasaray, so the next thing to sort out now is these two clubs negotiate a deal and sort out a transfer. But with no bids or talks taking place, I'm wondering if this deal is as advanced as some are making out. There may be further developments, of course, this week, but as of right now, bit bit of a slow burner of a transfer. So that may just be Manchester City wanting to sort out everything that's going on with the goalkeepers, including what's going to be happening in terms of trying to bring James Trafford in, and what's going to be happening with Stefan Ortega. So City may just be sorting out things in the background first before then they're happy to negotiate for their number one goalkeeper Ederson to leave to go to Galatasaray, or Ederson's camp may just be waiting for him to finish his holiday before he comes back and gives the green light for himself, or if there's interest from other parties, including that from Saudi Arabia. I don't know. Bit of a slow burner, but I'm sure we'll get some further clarification and updates on this by the end of this week. And moving on, we've also got a pretty similar situation with Stefan Ortega Moreno, the number 2 goalkeeper at Manchester City, because the Manchester Evening News are saying that despite some reports coming in from earlier this week that Burnley were interested in signing Stefan Ortega from Manchester City, they're saying that Burnley have not made any bid to try and sign Stefan Ortega from Manchester City, and the plan right now from Burnley is that they're not going to make a bid to bring in Stefan Ortega, regardless of what does happen with the future of James Trafford. Burnley clearly looking towards potentially bringing another goalkeeper in, but it's looking like they're not having a look at Stefan Ortega being the goalkeeper that they want to replace James Trafford with. Again, all has a knock-on effect and hold up when it comes to Man City sorting out the future of their goalkeepers. So we'll see. Now moving on, we've got a quick line on Rodri and these reports from Spain. They're refusing to go away with linking Rodri with a move to Real Madrid. Now AS in Spain have said that Real Madrid next want to target Rodri from Manchester City as their next big transfer. They want to make a move, more than likely will come next summer if a move does come. And with Rodri having 1 year left on his City contract next summer, it's well within Man City's best interest to get Rodri onto a new contract and end any talk over his future, which I know Man City are keen on doing, but they haven't started that as of yet, as I think City is still having some reservations about Rodri's recovery from his ACL injury. So I don't think City want to tie Rodri down long term until they feel like he's at a level where he can compete once more. Right now he's still in the recovery stage, and I suspect for probably at least the next 4 to 6 months that's going to be the case. He's not going to be able to do game after game after game for Manchester City. So until City are happy for Rodri to sign that new long-term deal, they're not going to go into them contract renewal talks. But the longer City puts it off, I would say the more likely it is that Rodri would want to sort out his long-term future. And let's say whilst Manchester City hesitates over this and this goes into the second half of next season, which is very plausible and could happen, I wouldn't rule out Real Madrid then starting to make their move for Rodri, offering him a bigger contract, a longer contract, bring him back to Spain and get him playing for them instead. I do hope that if this transfer does at some point potentially end up materialising, I'd like to think that Rodri would consider the reaction that came from Real Madrid with him winning the Ballon d'Or. Manchester City celebrated Rodri and his achievements, whereas Real Madrid, for me, disrespected him. And I'm hoping that when it comes to him making a decision, and if it does come down to do you want to move to Real Madrid or do you want to stay at Manchester City, that he really thinks about when things went his way and City's way. We had his corner, and if things aren't going his way, we're still happy to have his corner, whereas Real Madrid were happy to chuck their toys out the pram and disrespect an incredible player in Rodri, and I'm just hoping that he can stay in. For me, Rodri's a top-class professional. If I was in charge at City, I don't even think I'd be waiting until to see what the recovery looks like. I know for a fact that with how determined he is and how great of a professional he is, that he's going to be back at a very top level. Certainly a fantastic central midfielder that I would like for him to stay at Manchester City for many more years. So we'll see. It's quite a complicated contract renewal because it's he's getting to an age now, 29 years old. About how long do you tie him down for? Do you want to put him on a 4 or 5 year contract and secure him here till he's 34, 35 years old, or do you go for a shorter contract? And if another team's willing to offer him a longer deal, what do we do? And I imagine if anyone starts to get word that Rodri may see his future away from Manchester City, there would be a lot of other interested parties, not just from Real Madrid but other clubs in Spain. I imagine Saudi Arabia would be willing to have the Ballon d'Or winner. I would imagine they'd be willing to pay him a heck of a lot of money. So lots of things to think about. I'm hoping that City can end all this speculation, and once the transfer window shuts, first thing we're working on, Rodri onto a new contract, and that's what I think City need to be doing. Now moving on to the ins, we've got the very latest on Tino Livramento. The Times have said that Manchester City, whilst they're prepared to pay £65 million to bring in the 22-year-old English homegrown versatile fullback, Newcastle, they're keen to keep him and and get him onto a new contract and make him one of the highest earners at the club. Newcastle want Livramento to sign a new long-term contract, end speculation over his future, and they're working on getting him onto a new contract until 2031, which would be a 3-year extension onto his current deal. His current deal expires in June of 2028. Pep Guardiola is a big fan of Tino Livramento, and the Manchester Evening News are saying that City dream of Tino Livramento, but as of right now regard him as too expensive. They're not going to be making any bids for him in this window, and instead Manchester City are going to be looking at alternative targets when it comes to potentially replacing Kyle Walker. Now, one of the players that we've been getting linked with at right back is Wesley, and we've got the very latest on him. So Wesley, the 21-year-old Brazilian right back from Flamengo, Fabrizio Romano said he's set to sign for AS Roma on a permanent transfer. 25 million euros plus bonuses, so you're looking at a deal worth £21.69 million in today's currency exchange rate. Fabrizio Romano says it's going to get the clearance of a here we go once Flamengo have found a replacement, and Flamengo have ready to give the green light, which is very close to being sorted. Once that is sorted, he's going to fly to Rome, complete his medical, complete the deal, and he's going to become an AS Roma player. So I'm pretty confident in saying that we can scratch Wesley off the right back shortlist, which that list now getting even shorter. Who do we turn to? So, rumour mill's been in full meltdown over the last 24 hours in linking Manchester City with just about every known right back that could be available on the market. One of them players that City have been getting linked with is Jules Kounde, who once more is of interest to Manchester City. Now, he's under contract at Barcelona until 2027. He's a 26-year-old French defender who plays as a centre-back and as a right-back as well. Manchester City have previously been linked with making a move for Jules Kounde, who did ultimately end up choosing to go to Barcelona instead, but it is believed that City have maintained their interest and still admire the player. The thing is, Manchester City and Barcelona don't really see eye to eye, in particular when it comes to the boardroom and backroom staff, and there's been a bit of bickering, a bit of fallout going on here and there, and they're not really seeing eye to eye right now. So I'd be surprised to see the two clubs work together to negotiate a deal here, in particular for a player that Barcelona want to keep. Barcelona are happy to negotiate for Gundogan because they wanted rid of him. They didn't want him, and Manchester City did. Difference here is Barcelona want to keep Jules Kounde. They're working to try and get him onto a new contract, and Manchester City, because of that, are going to struggle to sign him. And I firmly believe that City's name's out here to get Jules Kounde a better deal and onto a new contract to scare Barcelona into giving him a better terms and get him to sign a new contract. Now, he does have a release clause, as of course all players in La Liga have a release clause. That's set at a whopping 1.08 billion US dollars or 800 million pounds. Obviously, City aren't going to go anywhere near that. We're not going to negotiate this transfer. He's a non-homegrown player when we've already got too many non-homegrown players when it comes to our Champions League registrations. And for me, stinks of player talk and agent talk to get Kounde a better deal from Barcelona. And that's as far as it goes, as far as I'm concerned. Now, moving on, we've got the latest on Morgan Gibbs-White, the English 25-year-old central midfielder from Nottingham Forest, and Alex Crook has said that Nottingham Forest would prefer to sell Morgan Gibbs-White to Manchester City rather than Tottenham Hotspur this summer. They said that they want to sell him to a bigger and better club than Tottenham Hotspur, and they prefer for him to go to Manchester City instead because Man City match the ambitions of a player as good as Morgan Gibbs-White. And relations now between Tottenham Hotspur and Nottingham Forest are very hostile. They don't like each other. It's in the mud. Nottingham Forest believe that Morgan Gibbs-White has been tapped up. They've reported Tottenham Hotspur for that transfer. So that transfer at the moment isn't progressing. And if City wanted to come in and steal Morgan Gibbs-White away from Tottenham Hotspur, they could. They're just not going to do so, in my opinion. We've seen Ryan Cherky come in. We've obviously got Ilkay Gundogan still here, Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish is still here. And whilst that is the case, we've got lots of players in his position that more than likely would be ahead of him in the squad. And it's more likely for me, if City want to make a move for Morgan Gibbs-White, that he'd be better being patient and waiting a year. In particular with Nottingham Forest in the Europa League, I think he'd be better helping Nottingham Forest to have another good domestic campaign and help them in their Europa League adventure as well, and waiting 12 months when Manchester City have already started to weed out more of the old guard and bringing in some fresh new faces, and that would mean the likes of Ilkay Gundogan and Bernardo Silva, their contracts are up. Kovacic should be going into the final 12 months of his contract as well, and it opens more space in midfield for Morgan Gibbs-White to compete to get a regular starting spot at City. It's just not going to happen this summer because we've looked elsewhere at easier deals and deals that aren't as expensive, and to me this all just comes down to price, and City weren't happy to pay the price that Forest were looking for, and that's as far as it goes. We know that Forest have kind of been lying to us about this £100 million asking price and £70 million asking price when he's got a release clause set at £60 million. So if Forest had told City that there's a £60 million release clause from the start, we may never have made a bid for Ryan Cherki or Tajani Reinders or someone. We may have gone in for Morgan Gibbs-White, which is what the window was looking like back in May, but you know, it's July now, things move on, and it's just, we're not going to clear enough space in the squad between now and the end of this window. So unless Morgan Gibbs-White persists and stays with Nottingham Forest for another 12 months, I can't see City making that move, despite Nottingham Forest seemingly wanting City to do so. I can't see it happening. Anyway, moving on, despite links coming in yesterday for Diogo Costa to join Manchester City from FC Porto, the Manchester Evening News have said that Manchester City are not interested in signing Diogo Costa this summer. Duncan Castles has said that Pep Guardiola is happy for Ederson to leave Manchester City if that is what he wants, and he is happy for Manchester City to go out and bring in a new #1 goalkeeper. It's just looking like it's not going to be the 25-year-old Portuguese #1 at least for the next 12 months, and it is looking like City are going to be making a move for just one goalkeeper in this window, and that goalkeeper, it's looking like, is going to be James Trafford, as long as the goalkeeper does leave City in this window. Now, Fabrizio Romano has said that James Trafford wants a move to Manchester City, and Manchester City are working on that transfer to bring the 22-year-old English homegrown goalkeeper in from Burnley. Manchester City have that buyback clause set at £40 million with a 20% sell-on fee included, so the total deal with that 20% taken off means City would be paying £32 million. The MEN have said that if Newcastle come back in and have a bid accepted for James Trafford from Burnley, Manchester City do have the option within 3 days to match that bid for that to also be accepted. So we'll see what does happen, but the rumours are saying that James Trafford would prefer a move back to Manchester City than to make the move to Newcastle. So we're just waiting on movement from another goalkeeper, whether that be Ederson or Ortega, because Manchester City want to bring in James Trafford. So if it is Ortega that leaves, then Trafford would be competing with Ederson to be the #1 goalkeeper, and if Ederson does end up leaving, then it looks like City are going to go with James Trafford and Stefan Ortega, and they're going to compete for the #1 spot. I imagine if it is Ederson that it does leave, which is looking most likely right now, I would say that Ortega would be City's new #1 to start the season, and Trafford's going to be working hard over the next 12 months to learn, develop, and eventually become City's new #1 goalkeeper heading in to next summer and beyond, once Ortega's contract does come to an end, if he doesn't end up signing a new contract, which we'll see what does happen. So that has been today's transfer update. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy this video, please do leave a thumbs up. 400 likes is the aim. Do get your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe as well if you're new around here. Press that red button, press the bell, and put your push notifications on. It is free to subscribe. Social media links are in the description if you want to go and follow me on my X, Instagram, and TikTok. Email also in the description too if you want to hit me up for any sponsorships for any videos or any general business inquiries. And I'll see you religiously tomorrow for the next daily Manchester City transfer update. So I've been JSGC. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope everyone is safe and well. Peace. Ciao for now.